Morning light sliced through the torn curtain. Ethan woke with his head still spinning from medicine. Water running in the bathroom. His heart hammered against his ribs. The door opened. A woman stepped out, hair wet, wearing his white dress shirt. Her face was familiar, but distant. Then it hit him. Claire Dawson, the CEO of the corporation where he was supposed to apply. Her lips moved. "You don't remember anything?" But what she said next made his world collapse. The apartment was 160 square feet of peeling wallpaper and cracked linoleum. Ethan had lived there for 3 years with Ruby, who was 8 now, and drew pictures of superheroes on the back of old delivery receipts. The white dress shirt hung by the window, pressed flat with an iron he borrowed from Nina downstairs. He'd saved for 3 months to buy it. Every morning started the same way. Ethan woke at 5:30, made 1 fried egg, split it in half. Ruby got the bigger piece. She never asked why he only ate toast. The building sat on the edge of the industrial district where the buses stopped running after 9. Ethan worked delivery routes during the day, riding a beat-up motorcycle that burned oil and made a sound like grinding metal. His hands were rough from gripping the handlebars in winter, and his jacket smelled like exhaust, no matter how many times he washed it. Ruby limped slightly when she walked. A car had hit them 2 years ago. Ethan had been holding her hand. She'd spent 4 months in a cast, and the limp stayed. The doctor said it might fade with physical therapy, but physical therapy cost money they didn't have. She drew a lot. Crayons, markers, pencils, whatever she could find. Her latest drawing showed a man in a cape standing on top of a building. At the bottom, in crooked letters, she'd written, "Dad is my superhero." Ethan had taped it to the wall above the hot plate. The apartment was quiet most of the time. Ruby did her homework at the small table by the window, while Ethan counted bills and wrote down numbers in a notebook. Rent was $400 a month. Food was another $200 if they were careful. Everything else went to keeping the motorcycle running. There wasn't much left over, but the white shirt hanging by the window meant something. It was clean. It was whole. It was the kind of thing a man wore when he wanted to be taken seriously. Tomorrow, he had an interview. He didn't remember applying for the job. The envelope had been slipped under the door 3 days ago. Plain and unmarked, except for his name on the front. Inside was a single sheet of paper with the Dawson Industries logo at the top. Warehouse supervisor position. Interview scheduled for 9 in the morning. Ethan had stared at it for a long time, trying to figure out if it was real. He'd looked up the company online at the public library. Dawson Industries was one of the biggest logistics operations in the state. The CEO was a woman named Claire Dawson, young and sharp-faced in every photo, the kind of person who didn't waste time on people like him. But the letter was real, the address was real, and the white shirt was ready. Ruby came home from school that afternoon with a new drawing. This one showed 2 stick figures holding hands in front of a house with a triangle roof. One figure was tall, the other small. She handed it to him without saying anything. Ethan looked at it for a long time, then folded it carefully and put it in his pocket. The next morning would decide everything. The night before the interview, Ethan went to pick up the shirt from the laundromat. He'd dropped it off 2 days earlier to make sure it would be perfect. No wrinkles, no stains, nothing that would make him look like what he was. The woman behind the counter didn't recognize him at first. When he gave her the ticket, she disappeared into the back room and came out empty-handed. "I don't see it," she said. Ethan felt something cold settle in his chest. "I dropped it off on Monday. White dress shirt. Ticket number 643. She checked again, came back shaking her head. "Sorry, it's not here. Might have been picked up by mistake." Ethan stood there holding the ticket, staring at the empty counter. The shirt had cost him $70. He'd saved for 3 months. The interview was in less than 12 hours. He walked out without saying anything. The street was dark and cold, the kind of night where the wind cut through jacket fabric like it wasn't there. Ethan sat on the curb outside a closed convenience store, holding the crumpled ticket in one hand and a $20 bill in the other. Nina had given it to him that morning. For emergencies, she'd said. $20 wasn't enough to buy a new shirt, not one that looked right. He sat there for a long time, staring at the pavement, trying to figure out what to do. The interview was his only chance. Without it, the rent would go unpaid. Mrs. Boisfort. Kowalski had already warned him twice. One more missed payment and they'd be out. A woman's scream cut through the night. Ethan's head snapped up. Across the street, under a broken streetlight, a young woman was struggling with a man in a hoodie. He had her purse. She was pulling back, trying to hold on, but he was stronger. Ethan didn't think. He ran. The man saw him coming and shoved the woman hard. She hit the pavement, and the man took off sprinting with the purse in his hand. Ethan chased him. His lungs burned. His legs were heavy from a full day of deliveries, but he kept running. The man turned a corner, and Ethan followed, closing the distance. He caught up at the end of an alley. The man spun around, swinging the purse like a weapon. It caught Ethan across the face, but he grabbed it and pulled. They struggled for a few seconds. Then the man let go and bolted. Ethan stumbled back, breathing hard, holding the purse. When he got back to the street, the woman was on the ground, not moving. Blood was trickling from a cut on her forehead. He knelt beside her, checking for a pulse. It was there, faint but steady. He pulled out his phone and called for an ambulance, then looked inside the purse for ID. No wallet, no cash, just a company badge with a photo and a name, Claire Dawson, and a prescription bottle with a heart medication label. The ambulance arrived 10 minutes later. The paramedics loaded her onto a stretcher and asked Ethan what happened. He told them. They asked if he was coming to the hospital. "I can't," he said. But he followed the ambulance anyway. At the hospital, the intake nurse asked for insurance information. Ethan said he wasn't family, just the person who found her. The nurse looked at the unconscious woman, then at Ethan. "We need a deposit to admit her. $200. Ethan looked at the $20 bill in his hand. Then he thought about the interview, about Ruby, about the rent. He thought about the woman's face, pale and still on the stretcher. He pulled out his phone and called Nina. "I need to borrow money," he said. "I'll pay you back. I promise." Nina didn't ask questions. She met him at the hospital 20 minutes later with $200 in cash. Ethan handed it to the nurse, and they took the woman into the ER. He waited. The doctor came out an hour later and said she was stable. She had a concussion and a heart condition that could have been dangerous if she hadn't been brought in. If Ethan had left her on the street, she might not have made it. Ethan nodded, then stood up to leave. "Aren't you going to wait for her to wake up?" the doctor asked. Ethan shook his head. "She doesn't know me." He walked out into the night, exhausted, broke, and without a shirt for the interview. When he got home, it was 3 a.m. Ruby was asleep. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the white space by the window where the shirt should have been hanging. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He opened the message. "Why didn't you stay at the hospital to get your shirt? I'm bringing it to you. What's your address?" Ethan stared at the screen, trying to make sense of the words. Before he could reply, the room tilted, his vision blurred. He tried to stand, but his legs gave out. He hit the floor and everything went dark. When Ethan woke, the first thing he saw was the torn curtain and the light coming through it. His head was pounding, his mouth was dry. There was a smell of soap and clean fabric in the air. Then he heard the water running in the bathroom. His heart started hammering. He sat up, dizzy, trying to remember what happened. He'd collapsed. Someone had texted him. And now, there was someone in his apartment. The bathroom door opened. A woman stepped out, her hair damp, wearing his white dress shirt. The one that was supposed to be lost. The one he needed for the interview. Her face was familiar. He'd seen it in photos online. Sharp features, confident eyes. Claire Dawson. She looked at him, calm and composed, like this was the most normal thing in the world. "You don't remember anything?" she asked. Ethan's mouth opened, but no words came out. Claire sat down on the edge of the chair by the window, hands folded in her lap. "You saved my life last night," she said. "I'm the CEO of Dawson Industries, the person who decides if you get hired. But now you've missed your interview." Ethan felt the floor drop out from under him. She continued, her voice steady and deliberate. "I came here last night to return your shirt. I found you unconscious outside your door. I called an ambulance. The medic said you were dehydrated and exhausted, but you'd be fine. They wanted to keep you overnight, but I told them I'd stay and make sure you were okay." Ethan stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. "You stayed here? All night?" "I got your shirt wet washing my face. I borrowed this one. I hope that's okay." It wasn't okay. That was the only shirt he had, the only one that mattered. But he couldn't say that. Not to her. Ruby's voice came from the other side of the room. "Dad?" She was awake, sitting up in bed, staring at the stranger in their apartment with wide, frightened eyes. Ethan moved quickly, positioning himself between Ruby and Claire. "It's okay, sweetheart. This is a friend." Claire stood slowly, keeping her distance. She looked at Ruby, then back at Ethan. "I can reschedule your interview," she said. "But I need to know something first. Why did you save me when you were in the middle of your own crisis?" Ethan didn't answer right away. He looked at Ruby, who was still watching Claire with cautious eyes. "Because it was the right thing to do," he said finally. Claire tilted her head slightly, studying him. "You used money you didn't have. You missed your interview. You risked everything." "I didn't think about it." "Exactly." Claire reached into her pocket and pulled out a business card and a white envelope. She set them on the table. "That's my direct number, and that's money to cover what you spent last night. If you want the job, call me within 48 hours. After that, the position goes to someone else." Ethan stared at the envelope. He didn't touch it. "I don't need charity." Claire looked at him for a long moment, then walked to the door. She opened it, then turned back. "This isn't charity. It's a debt I owe. If you want the opportunity, call me. If you don't, that's your choice. But don't lie to yourself about why you're refusing." She stepped into the hallway, then looked back one more time. 48 hours. The door closed behind her. Ethan stood there, staring at the envelope on the table. Ruby climbed out of bed and wrapped her arms around his waist. "Dad, who was that?" He didn't answer. He just held her, his hands shaking. Ethan didn't call. The business card sat on the table for 2 days, untouched. Ruby asked about it once, pointing at the white envelope beside it. "What's that, Dad?" "Nothing, just some papers." He told himself he didn't need help from someone like Claire Dawson. He could find another job. There were always delivery companies hiring, warehouses looking for night shifts. He could do this on his own. The motorcycle broke down on the second day. Ethan was halfway through a delivery route when the engine started grinding. He pulled over and saw metal shavings in the oil. The engine was gone. He called the delivery company. They told him not to bother coming back. Someone else would take his shifts. The repair shop quoted him $800. He had 93 in his account. When he got home, Ruby was doing homework. She looked up and smiled. "How was work, Dad?" "Good. Real good." That night, he opened his expense notebook. Rent was due in 10 days. $400. He had 93. Ruby came out of the bathroom, limping slightly, and climbed into bed. "Dad," she said, "why didn't you take the job with that lady?" "What makes you think I didn't?" "Because you're sad. You're always sad when things don't work out." He kissed her forehead and turned off the light. The next morning, Mrs. Kowalski knocked. "Rent's due in 10 days. You're already late from last month. If I don't get both payments, you're out." Ethan nodded. "I'll have it." She looked past him into the apartment. You always say that. Ethan spent the day looking for work. 3 warehouses, 2 restaurants, a construction site. Nobody was hiring. By the time he got home, it was late. He saw the business card still on the table. 48 hours. He picked up his phone and stared at the screen. His thumb hovered over the call button. Then he put it down and went to bed. At 3 in the morning, a text woke him up. You have 6 hours left. After that, I'm hiring someone else. Ethan stared at the message. 6 hours meant 9 in the morning. He thought about Ruby asking why he was always sad. He thought about the notebook full of numbers that didn't add up. He picked up the phone. His finger hovered over the call button. Then he set it down again and went back to bed. The morning came fast. Ethan woke at 8:30 to Ruby coughing. She was pale and sweaty. Dad, I don't feel good. He pressed his hand to her forehead. She was burning up. We're going to the doctor. He carried her down the stairs. The clinic was 6 blocks away. By the time they got there, she was barely awake. The nurse took one look and called for a gurney. They wheeled Ruby into the back. Ethan tried to follow, but the receptionist stopped him. We need a deposit, $200. I don't have insurance. Then we need the deposit first. Ruby's teacher appeared, out of breath. She handed Ethan a $100 bill. Take it. Ethan took the money. The receptionist said he still needed another $100. He pulled out his wallet. $93. It's not enough. Ethan turned and walked outside. He leaned against the wall and pulled out his phone, scrolling to Claire's number. The clinic door burst open. The nurse ran out. Mr. Cole, your daughter just collapsed. We're taking her to the hospital. Now. They loaded Ruby into an ambulance. Ethan climbed in beside her, holding her hand. Her eyes were closed. Her skin was gray. At the hospital, a doctor met them and started barking orders. They hooked Ruby up to an IV and took her blood. A woman in scrubs came over with a clipboard. We need a deposit of $5,000. Ethan stared at her. $5,000. Your daughter needs immediate treatment. Without payment, we can't proceed. Ethan pulled out his phone and called Claire. She answered on the first ring. It's Ethan Cole. My daughter's in the hospital. They won't treat her without $5,000. I don't have it. I need help. Silence. Then Claire's voice. Which hospital? County General. Stay there. Don't leave. 20 minutes later, the woman in scrubs came back. Your daughter's bill has been paid. The doctor is treating her now. 2 hours later, Ruby was stable. The doctor said she'd been running a fever for days and her body had given out. Malnutrition and dehydration made it worse. They were keeping her overnight. Ethan sat beside her bed, holding her hand. The door opened. Claire walked in, still in a business suit. Thank you, Ethan said. Claire pulled up a chair. You should have called sooner. I didn't want to owe you. You already owed me. I owed you first. Now we're even. Ethan shook his head. $5,000 isn't even. Claire leaned back. You saved my life. I saved your daughter's. If you want to argue about who owes who, we can do that. Or you can accept that sometimes people help each other because it's the right thing to do. I can't pay you back. I'm not asking you to. Then what do you want? Claire stood and walked to the window. I want to know why you didn't call me. You had 48 hours. You let the time run out. Because I was afraid. Afraid that if I took your help, it would mean I wasn't strong enough to take care of her on my own. Claire turned back. And now? Now, I know I'm not. And maybe that's okay. Claire walked to the door. The job offer is still open. But there's a condition. You have to tell me the truth about your life. All of it. Why does that matter? Because I don't hire people based on resumes. I hire them based on who they are. And I need to know who you are. She left before he could respond. Ruby came home 2 days later. The hospital gave her antibiotics and a nutrition plan. Ethan looked at the list and did the math. He didn't have enough money for half of it. Mrs. Kowalski was waiting in the hallway. She looked at Ruby, then at Ethan. Rent was due yesterday, $800 for both months. I need more time. I've given you time. You've got until tomorrow morning. After that, I'm changing the locks. She walked away. That night, Ethan packed everything into 2 duffel bags and a cardboard box. Ruby woke around midnight and saw him folding clothes. "Dad? What are you doing?" "Just organizing. Go back to sleep." "Are we leaving?" He sat down and pulled her close. "Maybe for a little while, but it'll be okay." Ruby pulled back and looked at him. "Where's the lady, the one who helped us?" "I don't know." "Sweetheart, you should call her. It's not that simple. You always tell me to ask for help when I need it. Why don't you?" The next morning, they sat on the curb with their bags. Mrs. Kowalski had changed the locks at 7. Nina found them an hour later. "I heard. You can stay with me for a few days." That night, after Ruby fell asleep, Ethan sat on the fire escape and stared at the city. He pulled out his phone and typed a message. "I'm ready to talk, but not about the job. I need to say I'm sorry first." He hit send. 2 minutes later. "Meet me at my office tomorrow, 10 in the morning. Don't be late." The Dawson Industries building was 40 stories of glass and steel. Ethan stood outside for 5 minutes before walking through the revolving doors. The receptionist pointed to the elevators. 37th floor. Claire's assistant led him down a hallway to a set of double doors. She knocked once. "Come in." The office was huge. Claire was behind a desk, reading her laptop. She didn't look up right away. Finally, she closed the laptop. "You wanted to apologize?" "Yes. Go ahead. I was wrong. I should have called you sooner. I put my pride ahead of my daughter's safety, and that was stupid and selfish." "Why are you telling me this?" Ethan walked to the window. "Because you deserve to hear it, and because I need you to know I'm not the kind of person who takes things for granted." Claire stood and walked around the desk. "I'm not offering you the warehouse supervisor job anymore." Ethan's stomach dropped. "What? I'm offering you something different. I want you to lead a training program for workers in difficult situations. People like you. Why me? Because you understand them. You've lived what they're living. I don't have any qualifications. You have empathy and resilience. Those are what matter. I can't do this. I'd fail." Claire opened a drawer and pulled out a framed photograph. A man in a delivery uniform standing in front of a beat-up truck. "That's my father. He worked as a delivery driver for 20 years. He raised me alone after my mother left." "What happened to him?" "He killed himself when I was 16. The company went bankrupt. He couldn't find another job. He thought he'd failed me." She set the photo on her desk. "He didn't fail me. But he didn't know that. I built this company so I could do what someone should have done for him. Give people a real opportunity. But I'm not qualified. Neither was I when I started. But someone believed in me. Now, I'm asking you to believe in yourself. What if I fail? Then you fail. But at least you'll have tried." "I need time to think." Claire shook her head. "You don't have time. I have a board meeting in 2 hours. They're voting on whether to shut down this program. If you don't say yes right now, the opportunity disappears." Ethan thought about Ruby asking why he never asked for help. He thought about the man in the photo, alone and afraid. "Okay, I'll do it." "Good. Because you're coming to that board meeting with me. You're going to tell them why they should give you this job." "I can't do that. I'll freeze up." "Then you'll sound like an honest person who's scared. That's exactly what they need to hear." She left. Ethan stood there, staring at the photograph. He called Nina. "Tell Ruby I'm going to be late, but tell her I'm doing something important, something that might change everything." 2 hours later, he stood in a boardroom full of people in expensive suits, his hands shaking, and told them the truth about his life. And when he was done, Claire Dawson smiled. The boardroom was all glass and polished mahogany. 7 people sat around the table, their faces blank and professional. Claire stood at the head, her hands resting on the back of her chair. "This is Ethan Cole," she said. "He's the person I want to lead the Second Chance training program." One of the board members, a man in his 60s with silver hair, leaned forward. "Ms. Dawson, what qualifications does Mr. Cole have?" Claire gestured to an empty chair. "Why don't you ask him yourself?" Ethan sat down. The leather was cold through his worn jeans. Everyone was looking at him, waiting. The silver-haired man spoke again. "Mr. Cole, why should we trust you to lead a program that will cost this company over $300,000? Ethan's mouth was dry. "You shouldn't." The room went silent. "You shouldn't trust me based on credentials. I don't have a college degree. Until 2 weeks ago, I was sleeping on a friend's couch because I couldn't make rent." A woman across the table frowned. "Then why are you here?" "Because I know what it's like to be invisible. I've spent 15 years working jobs where nobody knew my name. The people you want me to train? I've been them. I've lived in their apartments. I've raised a kid on their income." The silver-haired man leaned back. "That's compelling. But we need results, not empathy. I can walk into a room full of delivery drivers and warehouse workers, and they'll listen to me. Not because I have a degree, but because they'll see someone who didn't give up." Another board member spoke. "What makes you think you can teach them anything?" Ethan hesitated. "I don't know anything about professional development, but I know how to survive. I know how to stretch $10 into 3 meals. I know how to look my daughter in the eye when she asks if we're going to be okay, and find a way to mean it when I say yes." He looked around the table. "You can hire a consultant to teach people how to write a resume, but if you want someone who can teach them how to believe they deserve a second chance, then I'm the person you need." The silver-haired man watched him carefully. "What happens if you fail?" "Then I fail. But at least those 100 people will know that someone believed they were worth the effort." The silver-haired man stood. "Ms. Dawson, can we have the room?" Claire and Ethan stepped into the hallway. The door closed. Ethan leaned against the wall. "I screwed that up." Claire shook her head. "You didn't." The door opened. The silver-haired man stepped out. "We're ready to vote." They went back inside. The silver-haired man looked around the table. "All in favor of approving the program with Ethan Cole as director, raise your hand." One hand went up, then another, then a third. The silver-haired man raised his hand. 4 out of 7. "The program is approved," Claire said. Ethan couldn't breathe. The silver-haired man extended his hand. "Don't make us regret this." After the board members left, Claire sat across from Ethan. "You start Monday, $300,000 budget, 100 trainees, 3 months to show results." She stood and walked to the door. "One more thing. There's a company apartment, 2 bedrooms. It's yours." "Claire, I can't." "It's part of your compensation. You're an employee now. Start acting like it." The first day started at 8 in the morning. Ethan walked into the conference room and saw 100 tired, skeptical faces staring back at him. He sat down in a chair at the front. "My name is Ethan Cole. 3 weeks ago I was homeless. I'm not here to teach you how to be successful. I'm here to tell you that you're not alone." A man in the back raised his hand. "I've been working warehouse jobs for 20 years, and I can barely pay rent. How is that strong?" "Because you're still here. You haven't given up." A woman in the front spoke. "What are we actually going to learn here?" Ethan walked to the whiteboard and drew 2 stick figures, one hunched over, one standing straight. "This was me a month ago. This is me now. The only thing that changed was someone told me I was worth more than I thought, and I decided to believe it. That's what we're going to do here. The 3 months passed in a blur of early mornings and late nights. Ethan taught classes, but more than that, he listened. He shared his own failures. He proved that someone like them could make it. By the end, 87 trainees had found better jobs or been promoted. 13 asked to continue with advanced training. On graduation day, Ruby sat in the front row. Claire stood at the back. One by one, graduates shared their stories. A delivery driver promoted to manager, a janitor who started his own business, a single mother with benefits for the first time. When it was over, one of the graduates walked up to Ethan. "Thank you for not giving up on us." Ethan shook his head. "You did the work." The man smiled. "You showed up. That's more than most people do." After everyone left, Claire handed Ethan a folder. Proposals from 4 other cities. They want you to help set up the same program. Ethan stared at the documents. This is real. Very real. Claire reached into her bag and pulled out the white dress shirt, pressed and folded. "I wanted to return this, but I think you should keep it. As a reminder that sometimes the things we're willing to give away are the things that matter most." 6 months later, Ethan stood in front of a new building. The sign read, "Second Chance Training Center." Ruby was beside him, holding his hand. "Dad, why is it called Second Chance?" Ethan knelt down. "Because everyone deserves a second chance, Ruby, no matter how many times they've fallen down. Even you, especially me." Inside, the center was bright and clean. On the wall hung a framed photograph of a man in a delivery uniform standing in front of a beat-up truck. Below it, a plaque read, "In memory of Michael Dawson, who gave everything and deserved more." A young man stood in the doorway, his clothes worn and his face uncertain. He looked like he was about to run. Ethan walked over and extended his hand. "Welcome, I'm Ethan." The young man hesitated. "I'm Marcus. I heard about this place." "I wasn't sure if I should come." "Why not?" "Because I don't know if I'm worth the effort." Ethan put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "You are, and we're going to prove it to you." As Marcus walked inside, Ruby looked up at her father. "Are you happy now, Dad?" Ethan watched Marcus disappear into the building, where people were waiting to help him. He thought about the apartment with 2 bedrooms, the job that gave him purpose. Claire, who'd seen something in him when he couldn't see it himself. "Yes, sweetheart. I think I am." Ruby hugged him. Over her head, Ethan could see his reflection in the glass door. He was wearing the white dress shirt, pressed and clean. He looked like someone who belonged. That evening, after Ruby was asleep, Ethan wrote emails to the 4 cities. At the end of each message, he added, "This program isn't about teaching people how to succeed. It's about teaching them how to believe they deserve success." He closed the laptop and looked at Ruby's drawing on the wall, the one showing him in a cape, standing on top of a building. It wasn't a lie anymore. He'd become the person she'd always believed he was. Outside his window, the city stretched out in all directions, full of people struggling just like he had. People who needed someone to tell them they weren't alone. He couldn't save all of them, but he could save some. And maybe those people would go on to save others. One person at a time. One second chance at a time. That was enough.